do feel like we've had a lot of growth where we're going in the right direction.
I'm just, you know, wait till you guys.
I think the
talk or whatever.
It'd be funny if we did.
I believe we are live. I believe we're live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the best way to end the day. I'd like to welcome everybody to XRP After Dark. I got two special guests in the house tonight that need no introduction. Above me, I got the legend himself, XRP Venture. Is it still XRP Venture? Or is it XRP XLM Venture now? And below me, I got
if you've been injured in a car accident,
and below me, I got the one and only 𝕤𝕠𝕚𝕒 is here. All jokes aside, I got Digital Asset Daily in the building with me. Dad is here with me. I'd like to welcome everybody to XRP After Dark. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You guys can show some love, smash that thumbs up. It's been real interesting. And let me make sure we're live here.
I'm looking. I don't see it running.
Yeah, I don't see my live either, but I might have to just check the OBS. It's because I'm running with the Zoom at the same time. It could be just slowing the feed. Just bear with me one moment. It was sounding beautiful before the... One thing we are going to be talking about is... Yeah, XRP is on fire. Has been on fire. Will it break the resistance at 54 cents? No, I'm hearing 54 cents incoming. Okay, I'm hearing 54 cents incoming. Yes. The market has been on fire. BuLLZiLLa did call it for Q1 when there was so much FUD out there around the world. And they were like, oh man, it's going to be down. I said, no, I think Q1 is going to be good. And some of the hidden gems have been on fire. But one thing, guys, because I believe we are live now, though. Are you getting the feed, Venture, on yours?
I got nothing for you.
You got nothing? Well, what about you, Dad?
I'm trying to refresh now and see if I can see it.
Let me see if I can pop out the chat real quick. Let me pop out this chat real quick. Because I'm getting feed on mine. Maybe getting feedback on my iPad. So what about
okay, I see it. It's showing up now.
It is? Where?
It's just going.
Yeah, it's live now.
It's just loading extremely slow because the Zoom and the OBS is running at the same time. And matter of fact, let me see one thing. Guys, we're going to talk about some cryptic tweets tonight. I call it Digital Asset Daily. And I said, Dad, that's short for Digital Asset Daily. I said, do you have any ideas for the show? And he asked me, did you see the cryptic tweet from Joe Katz? The 589 check, that was kind of epic. I cannot believe that. Okay, hold on. I see somebody in the chat. ℙ𝕝𝕝𝕝 popped up. ℙ𝕝𝕝𝕝. What'd you say? Yeah, why? Did it feed on your phone?
If you're asking me, I haven't found it yet.
I got it live on my end. I can see it. I see ℙ𝕝𝕝𝕝.
Yeah,
it looks like
ℙ𝕝𝕝𝕝 popped up in there.
Looks like 7 people entered the room.
It's just gonna go out slow. It's no big deal. Before you know it, we're gonna have 2,000 people bum rush into the room to see Dad and momentarily. I'm gonna send a tweet out to let the world know we made it. We're live, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. The one thing that surprised me is a check that David Schwartz sent out about the 589. I was like floored about that, kind of like overexcited. I was like, no way. Right here, 589,000. And David Schwartz says, here's an example of the kind of thing I should never ever tweet. What's your thoughts on that, Dad?
Yeah, I think it's pretty big. I think you know, I think he's got a pretty amazing sense of humor. And if you you know, most of your audience I think is going to have been around for a while, so they understand like the reference back to the 589. And if you get into like the cryptographic stuff, if you get into like the gematria and stuff, the 58, or I should say 589,000, they will basically, the zeros would be invisible, so it's 589. But I think if you go up to the top right of that check, what's really exciting is it's a date to come. It's not like a past dated check. It's March 28 of 2023, so it's coming up in 3 days. So
Wow.
that'd be exciting if that was like a reference to in 3 days XRP at 589.
Venture.
That'd be.
Did you hear that? You might have missed that, Venture. Dad went to the next level with it. He went deep. He
No, I
referenced.
heard it. Yeah.
He took it to the next level. He
I just
basically-
have a little different take on David Schwartz.
Oh, you got a little different take. Okay. So what's your take on that? Dad is saying that basically maybe in 3 days that something historic or epic may happen with the reference with the cryptic tweets in the geometry. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that with this?
Well, I think David was fun for the first couple of years, but now it almost hurts when he puts something out without saying anything. Because I mean, he's saying something, but it has no date. I just like to for him once, instead of one of his tweets and some kind of a where everybody tries to find the code in it or some kind of meaning. I just like him to come out sometime and just tell us where he thinks, we're at. I realize that he's, involved in the lawsuit, being an employee of Ripple, and can't really disclose anything, but he could say that too. But sometimes for me, when I read the tweets, I flip the switch in the basement. I wonder what that did. It's like a little bit like rubbing salt in the wound for me. This has been a long haul, and sometimes, your jokes and your sarcasm at some point aren't funny anymore, because it's been a long, painful wait for a lot of people.
It's been a long road.
So yeah, I mean, obviously brilliant guy, love it, but yeah, it's I would I could do with a few less jokes and a little more.
But no, I think in this tweet he is being more direct. I mean, right here he's saying like we're holding a check that is not yet to be cashed, as far as the 589, 589, and look at the excitement on this lady's face right here. Okay, hold on. Okay, now I see the March 28th in 2023. With that is referenced also. But, I mean, it could be a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's a beautiful, that smile makes you want to smile.
I'll agree with that.
That smile makes you want to smile. That's for sure. Let me see right here if I can put this back to smaller right there. Bam. Okay. There's one other crypto tweet. So,
not trying to be, a Debbie Downer. I'm just saying that I've read every single tweet David has ever posted in the last, 4.5 years. And I get it. It's funny. Okay. But, now, and maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, but at some point, like I said, it's, just did the switch last week, and then he's doing the 589 today, and I don't know.
No, well, hold on, Venture. Maybe you didn't see this one.
Maybe not.
I don't think you saw where Joe Cat said flip the switch.
Oh,
No, can you see my screen on that right there?
yeah.
It says you can't turn it off. You can't turn it off. My question is saying you can't turn it off. I believe that references on-demand liquidity is flowing. It can't be turned off. Is that a reference to decentralization? Just asking.
Well, I don't know. I mean, looks like both, you can see the humor there where both up and down say on. You see it in the magic marker written in the pen? Both are on, no matter which way you flip the switch. That's why you can't turn it off.
It's on and more on.
That's a good way. Let the
Even
good
if you
times
flip it,
flow.
it's still on.
That's for sure. You can't turn it off. Did you happen to see this one right here, Dad?
I did, and it was you know what was interesting with that was, you know, a lot of his tweets happen, it seems like they happen within like 3 to like 14 days typically when he posts something that's like kind of a tip or a hint, I feel.
Okay.
And for example, you had this one that came up before, you know, I don't want to rush into the conversation, but then recently, the past few days, you know, going back a few days ago, you had that little run with XRP where we jumped up about 14 cents or so. And then I felt that was a reference to that. You know what I mean? That's like I said something the other day where it was like drip, drizzle, flood. And then you go back to the reference. Here's my thoughts on all this. This is where I was headed with that. You go back to the reference where they switched to the plumbing. I feel like, you know what I mean? They were testing the new plumbing. They turned it on for a minute, but didn't want to overdo it because there may be leaks. And then if you go Monday, Swift went, I don't want to say live, but it went live on Monday. And then you had all the banks migrating for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And it seems like every time a bank would come on board, it ran smooth for a little bit. And then within an hour or two, they had an error. But that error, it seems like they were fixing every single bank that had that error within like 15 to 20 minutes. And it said, you know, we ended the day, everything ran smooth. We're good to go. So my thought with that is like I know he spelled more on like dummy, but he had on and on, like Venture said. So it's on and like more on, and he put a little pun in there. So I think you know, he called the moron like who basically designed that being very dangerous. But then I think if you know, take phonetically moron, it's on and more on. So it's like you said with the ODL, it's kind of once they turn it on, it's unstoppable. It's only going to increase its momentum. The currents are going to flow really strong, and it'll be unstoppable.
I think
that's kind of how I view it, you know.
I think you're gonna have Venture jump out of his seat tonight. You're gonna give Venture the Holy Ghost. I can feel it. Venture, I'm just messing with you, Venture. You know, like to have fun.
Yeah, I'm good.
Venture was telling so many jokes before we went live too. Venture had me laughing the whole time. I'm so glad. I'd like to welcome everybody to XRP After Dark. We actually have Venture on the show quite a few times, but I'm not sure if this might be our first time. Is this our first time, Dad?
This is the first time.
Wow, I'm honored. Wow, this is our first time for sure. So if everybody can smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe out there. We got special guests in the building. XRP After Dark, long overdue show. And what's the next one right here? I would have... Venture, what's your sentiments of the whole crypto market right now? What's your thoughts? Or where we stand today?
Well,
Let us know, Venture.
I have, I believe in all of the tier one coins that we've all talked about several times. I'm every bit as committed, if not more so, than I've always been. But I think I've come to the conclusion that it's going to take longer than we had hoped. I still think there's a very real possibility we could be, you know, till a new administration comes into the government, because clearly Biden and most Democrats are either trying to shut down or tax the heck out of crypto, and are pushing the CBDCs really hard for their control.
Okay.
So but I would love for April to, bring some amazing results and some kind of a real flipping of the switch and real ODL being used somewhere and, a real consistent, steady increase in the price of XRP and the other cryptos right along with it. But I don't know anymore. I mean, I don't, there's so many things that we've talked about over the years from, oh, Trump's really still the president and, he's going to get back in and Biden, and nothing ever happens. So it just leads me to believe that nobody really knows any of it. And it's actually gotten to the point where it's easier for me to just kind of sit back and watch. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in it that you can cause yourself so much anxiety. It's almost easier to go to work and just put it in your cold storage up in the closet and in the fire safe and don't worry about it. Because just like last week, XRP moves up from, 37 cents to 45, and everybody we start, it sucks you right back in. Okay. And then when you do it, it stalls out again and stays right there where it is. Okay. But you can see what you're showing on the screen right there. We all saw that big run up and we were all excited, literally hit 50 cents, and now we're back to 45.
Yeah, because it traded
and now we got
at 37,
going sideways for a while again.
For quite some time. I agree.
Yeah. So I'm all in. I love it. I'm still buying, and I will continue to as long as I can. I've got some goals I want to hit, but I just buy it and I'm just holding. I'm just waiting, and I'm like you guys and probably anybody else that might hear this. I wake up every morning hoping to see that something happened in the Asian markets overnight or where there's, a dramatic pop or an announcement on Twitter that, a settlement's been reached or Judge Torres has made some kind of a decision in the case, and there's something that we could look forward to for, a dramatic increase in the price of this asset we've held forever.
So it's safe to say that basically we could be like, for people that may be new to crypto, they should, what Digital Asset Investor says, put your big boy pants on, because it sounds like this could be a wild ride of emotion up and down.
Well, Dad,
what's your thoughts?
We call him Dad because it's Digital Asset Daily. So we're in the habit of calling him Dad.
So what's your thoughts on that, Dad?
He's younger than I am. He's younger than me.
You've been in crypto for just as long as I think me, you, and Vince have been here for years. Now, what's your thoughts on the state of crypto now?
Man, I'm bullish. I'm always loved the bullish family for that reason.
Yeah.
The way I view it is literally, there are factors, but the major factors that I've been waiting for the past 8 years is like, we literally just did them this week. So for me, it could literally happen anywhere from, now until like April 16th. There's just so much going on. And I tend to follow like everything. I follow like global markets, like all the financial. I follow, love it or hate it. I have to follow like the politics too, because they determine they're connected to, global everything. IMF, your Federal Reserve, the World Economic Forum, the BOE, basically everything, SWIFT, everything. It's all, they're basically all connected, and you can see that every year from the World Economic Forum. But the way I view it too is, and I get the frustration. Everybody who's been here at least, at least 3 years, and specifically 5 years or more. Okay. You have room to be frustrated. It's like, you've seen it go up, you've seen it go down. But the way I view it is a little bit different. And again, I think the biggest thing is I go back to, Swift going live on Monday. For me, that was like a huge turning point, because you could start seeing a massive amount of volume going from where XRP was before they went live, even go back 24 hours before they went live, to during the time all the banks were migrating on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday,
Okay.
you started seeing volume. And another thing too with, I don't want to get ahead of anything that you might discuss in your show, but connecting to what we were discussing earlier, going back to that, another reason I'm super duper bullish too is you had what you've shown with the switches where it's on and more on. And then you had, the banks going live and David having a few more posts and discussions. But I think what got me really, really bullish and excited this week was you had the, XRP pumping about 14, give or take whatever cents, you know what I mean, during that thing, as Venture says, got up to about 50 cents, and then we kind of dropped back. And how somebody who holds millions or even billions of these, once we get to the 50 cent, the dollar mark, or plus 10, 100,000, whatever mark we hit, there's always going to be selling points for somebody who's got a lot more than what you have, you know what I mean? Or what we have. There's always going to be a sell point. But I felt this time that it wasn't so much a sell point as it was like a testing of the volume, making sure there weren't errors, because every time a bank migrated, it had an error. They adjusted the error and then it closed for the day. So over those 3 days, this is the way I saw it, was at the end of that, whenever the price of XRP went back, to me, what was very, very exciting, because I realized it was a test. It wasn't your normal market at that point. Now they're playing with utility. That wasn't a buy and sell move that pumped and dumped it. That was a volume and utility use case happening, which increased it because they were moving so much. And then if you saw during that time the fiat leak, it was kind of slow and dribbly, but it was shooting like laser beams again during that time whenever the price was increasing. So fiat leak was going really fast again, like moving like it used to do when it was first turned on. But the exciting part for me was David Schwartz again. An hour after the price increase and it kind of dropped back down to where it is, David Schwartz posted and he said, "Hey guys, I was in my garage and I flipped the switch.
Yeah.
Not really sure what it did or if it did something, but I turned it off about an hour ago." And that was the exact timeline of when XRP, the price increase, got turned off and it went back down and kind of held where it is sideways right now. So that's where I said, okay, that wasn't a normal like retail investor buying into that and then somebody selling out. There were sales, of course, but that was, for me, a utility showing that they were testing all these migrated banks within the SWIFT system, because we know, like, go back to what Brad Garlinghouse said during the lawsuit. He was asked, it might have been, I think it was the end of last year, maybe the beginning of this year, where he said, a question about the U.S. and question about like the global feelings on Ripple and XRP. And he said 95% of his customers were outside the U.S. And he said most of the people outside of the USA really didn't care about the SEC lawsuit. So then a few weeks after that, he came back and followed up with, 90%. Basically, they were connected now to 90% of the FX market. And over 50% of that was now on ODO. Yeah, so if you look at 90% of the FX market, that volume, that's massive. And once the case is over, I feel like that's kind of, I'm torn 50-50 on. Are they going to raise the price so people can't buy back in and then announce it's over? Or are they going to take advantage of announcing that case and letting that increase the price with the FOMO investors as well? But a lot of the U.S., like we know, has been blocked out of being able to purchase and get XRP. And then we know that the USA has the greatest GDP of the entire, like, the planet. So I think they're not so worried about the other people outside of the USA having the finances to be able to buy bulk amounts and raise the price. So that's where I'm trying to follow up to see how they're going to play that. Are they going to say, okay, the case is over and allow FOMO to take off and then the price to accelerate very quickly? Or are they going to ignite the, flip the switch and then overnight wake up the next morning and say, hey guys, the case is over? So then people slept through the potential opportunity, but then FOMO begins again anyway. So that's where I'm a little bit torn.
That's a lot of hard hitting information right there, Venture. If you heard all that, he was giving a lot of facts about we got some live ODL flowing through some markets.
He shares things with me all week long in tweets. He's so optimistic. I love it. He's a great cheerleader for the crypto space, and I love it.
Yeah.
But you know, here's the thing, though. I think we'd be smart to remember that really the only way this thing's going to happen overnight, at least in my opinion, like the Ellis theory, is if there's a settlement to this lawsuit. Because the reality of it is, if they settle, it's over. There's no judge's decision. There's no appeal or anything else. But if we don't settle it, and we get a judge makes a decision whether she rules for the SEC or whether she rules for Ripple, the other one is going to file an appeal, and we're going to be another 2 years down the road going through the appeal process. And that court, the higher court. The only way, in my mind, is that we settle and everybody's good. Ripple strokes a check. SEC says, see, they did some wrong. We were right in bringing the suit. We got a payday. We like them now. They're good guys. We've given them a letter, and they can go forward and move forward with their business model. And, you know, they're not a security anymore. They're decentralized, or whatever they want to use to try to suggest that, you know, that's why Ethereum, ETHgate is such, because they're supposedly more decentralized, was the kind of the what they were leaning on. But anyway, either way, they'll make nice, be friends, and Ripple will finally go out with the only cryptocurrency with real U.S. government clarity.
We'll say that day comes, though, because that could be possible. There could be, okay, what if Ripple says, okay, we'll pay a settlement fee. We did this, hypothetically speaking. What would that do to the price of XRP that day? If they paid the settlement. Because I'm not going to go the way you said, where if there's a verdict and one person this and the other one didn't like it and there was an appeal. So let's skip the appeals. Let's skip that maybe Ripple did wrong. And we're just hypothetically speaking. Because Tezos did the same thing. They paid a fine for selling unregistered security. And then it was business as usual.
Well, I mean, some companies that have been sued and obviously lost have been able to fare and weather the so-called fines better than others. They had deeper pockets and could pay the fine and move on. Some, it broke them. Ripple obviously has deep enough pockets to settle at any number they want. If we got a settlement announcement next week, I have no idea what I think it's everybody would expect that XRP might jump to the $10, $13 range.
Okay.
And I think there's reason for that, because I think a lot of holders at, you know, real close to $10 would go ahead and liquidate. And that'll level off the price again. Because they're going to offset the buy pressure with their sell pressure. I don't know, Dad. What do you think? What happens after settlement? What does the price do if there's a, you know, heaven forbid there's a settlement and it doesn't move again? But still,
man, I was trying to take notes because I just grabbed a pen really quick because you guys were hitting so many points. I think going back to. Let's go back. What was it? I believe you were talking about Tezos. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Tezos.
CKJ. Yeah. The other thing too, what came to mind, you know, if you had a worst case scenario, remember EOS, the exact same thing happened to them.
Okay, yeah.
They literally, they were claimed or labeled a security or whatever. They had to pay the penalty, but literally within 10 or 12 hours, their price went up much higher than it was at the beginning of the morning before there was even any concern of them, you know, not passing, not being like free and clear. So EOS, I mean, it was labeled security. It paid the penalty, and then the price the same day, like you said before, business as usual, was even higher than it even started the day.
Wow.
And it was significantly higher. I didn't take a note of the percentage, but it was significant, and I was shocked because that was my first time really following an SEC case where SEC won and they were labeled as security. I just mentally, stuck it in the memory block and followed it a little bit, but that was it.
Wow.
So I was never really worried because, I think Venture was just saying Ripple has a budget where it's like they can afford it. They were bigger than the other fintech companies out there that have faced the same, concerns, the same lawsuit, the same penalties. But I think, it's hard to say where it could go because really, like the entire system, I mean, I think between the three of us, since, at least 2019, we've connected Ripple literally to everything institutional, enterprise, and wholesale financial, like
I agree.
on the planet, like literally everything. I mean,
Literally.
we've all done deep dives and shown everything, like even back into 2019, connected to everything. So
Yeah.
we did a lot of that,
There. I think we got the three original OGs, matter of fact, in the XRP community almost. XRP Venture. He even had XRP in his name. Then Digital Asset Daily would bring Digital Asset Daily news. And that was one of the most interesting things, too. I remember you were the first one that actually started talking about XLM. And this is when it was extremely tribal. And, oh, my God, remember how tribal it was? Then you couldn't even talk about XLM and XRP on the same show. And now I talk about XLM all the time. Are you still bullish on XLM?
Oh man, XLM's a monster. It's doing, and again, I think the biggest thing that people like still today misunderstand is they don't understand they're in different lanes.
Okay.
They're not competition. They're not even in the same focus. Again, it's such a crazy conversation to get into. I think a lot of it, probably the simplest way to put it is a lot of things that you and I and the community might discuss as a definition of something isn't the same definition the fintech companies have, isn't the same definition SEC has. You know what I mean? For example, I'm trying to think if I want to go there with the SEC, but I'll be gentle. Let's be gentle because I don't want them coming after me. But if you think SEC, they're out there to protect the investor. I think if you were to define that more clearly and more safely, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, they're out there to protect the enterprise investor. Because since this lawsuit, the only people to be really hurt and injured financially was the retail investor, and nobody seemed to care from the SEC.
That makes sense too.
So my thoughts is that definition of protect the investor, I think he should be more clarity on their side, the way they're forcing fintech to be more clarity on what the definition means to them. Because if he's saying protect the investor, obviously it isn't the retail investor. Because every time they attack these fintech companies, they're only hurting the retail investor. And that's the person who's needing the money the most. People like you, me, Venture, everybody that can hear my voice right now. We're the real people. We're the normal retail investor. So I think if you look at the definitions, you know what I mean? Then it changes everything. But I would say mentally, like when I think of Ripple winning the lawsuit, we've always said $12. That was just the standard community thing. And I believe it could easily do that. But I don't think it would stay there that long because once it's clear, go back to Bank of America. Bank of America said once there's clarity with Ripple and the lawsuit ends, they'll be the first bank in the USA to use XRP in the ODL system. So if you go back to Bank of America, I think all three of us have discussed that Ripple's in their patent.
Where's Dad's Twitter at? Let me pull that up so people can see who's talking here. I like to welcome everybody to XRP After Dark, guys. I got Digital Asset Daily below, XRP Venture above, surprise live stream. Talk to us, Venture. What is it?
Well,
I told you was going to get him all those, Dad. Look at him. You made him jump
He didn't want to talk about the SEC, but let me tell you something. Gary Ginsberg is, I'm not selling any oranges, so he's got nothing to come after me for. But the reality of it is the guy he's just as big a bankster as the rest of them. And politically, he was literally the guy that paid for the Trump dossier in the Democratic Party when he was working for Hillary Clinton. This guy, that's why he's whispering with Senator Warren all the time. And she's got pre-planned, pre-prepared questions to ask, like she knows what she's talking about. He's feeding her the information that he wants her to say in an open hearing to try to facilitate and bolster his position on crypto. I couldn't agree with Dad more when it comes to he is not protecting us at all. That is a biggest load of horse crap. How hard is it to come up with some common sense regulation on what we should do with these digital assets? It's not that hard. I mean, the commissioners and the chairman could sit down, I would think in an afternoon, decide how it should go. They come in, they register with us, and instead of, turning around and suing them the minute they walk out the door, we'll actually work with them. The thing I missed, and I shared this with you earlier, CKJ, was, the whole notion of a sandbox. Everybody, you're in a sandbox. You can work freely, developing your projects, kind of a, no harm, no foul area, and we're not going to, we want to help you innovate. And then, we'll kind of come up with the regulations together. But clearly, everybody, including Coinbase and Ripple and others, have gone to them, asked them for clarity, asked them to get involved. And to this day, they can't bring themselves to say, we know, we've never really made a determination.
Wow.
Except in the him and emails that we sent around the office where we all knew, but we don't want to share those with you. But we've never made a determination on whether they're security or not. But we're going to start every single conversation in public with, now these are my own personal opinions and not the views of the SEC, because the SEC clearly doesn't want to have any views because they want to be able to sue every single crypto company out there, and they want to try to control this thing and put the thing back in the box before it gets too big so that they can so the bankers can run this thing and they can have the same monopoly on crypto and any other asset that's going to be of value in the future and give us some crumbs. Well, they end up classifying us as, that we have to be an accredited investor before we're allowed to buy anymore.
Yeah, I see.
So they're literally, and obviously, and that's why I say I think we're possibly waiting for a new administration, because this one is literally trying to tax the crap out of trying to increase the capital gains and include crypto in that tax, and are trying to shut it down and are pushing hard for the CBDCs, which for all intents and purposes could cripple the entire crypto market if they're going to use CBDCs. And the other part, I hope that the thinking and the theory is true that, this is all kind of staged, and, the lawsuit is to control the timing of when they really want to release it, because they could settle the lawsuit and or anytime they want. They can either stretch it out and lengthen it, or they could stop it right now today. I'm hoping it's contrived, or is it worse than that and it's more malicious than that, and they're trying to tie up Ripple and the XRP token long enough until somebody else develops an alternative, like a JP Morgan coin or whatever, who, by the way, don't buy anybody that buys Bitcoin. I'm going to fire them. And at the same time, they're buying it all over in Europe. And what a fraud he is. He's worse than Sam Bankman fraud.
That's my question
Anyway.
there, though. What about news like this today? Over 1,200 German banks can now offer Bitcoin trading to retail users. So, yes, I understand your frustration here in the USA, but the rest of the world has moved forward.
There's a lot of countries that have moved forward. And that's why I just can't believe that the United States, even these politicians that seem to have their head in their butt, it just doesn't. I just can't believe they don't see the merit in hugging XLM and Ripple and XRP and Stellar both, and bringing them under the fold and saying, these are our boys. You know, we're going to support them. We're going to give them clear regulation, and we're going to push and promote them throughout the world so that we have, you know, a potential anyway of that being, you know, not necessarily our walled garden coin, but there's still U.S. based companies that they can be proud of and can use in whatever political fashion. That's where BRICS is coming from. That's where BRICS is. All the Brazil and Russia and China, and they put that together because they're tired of the U.S. putting sanctions on them through the SWIFT program. You can't. We control SWIFT, and you're not going to transfer money through SWIFT, and hurting them in their. So they're coming up with their own program. In the meantime, they're finding out, just like we saw China say 3 or 4 days ago to Russia, that we're changing something that hasn't been changed in 100 years, and we're making it happen. Wow. And what he's talking about is a historical life cycle of a reserve currency is 100 years, and we're at it. The U.S. has had the reserve currency for 100 years, and it's about to change. And you would think the U.S. would want to get on board, and if we're going to do that, let's do, you know, SWIFT 2.0 in the terms of RippleNet, and be the front runner on this thing and prove that it's better, faster, more productive than the BRIC system, and we can have some dominance in the world that way too, instead of continually cutting them off at the knees. Wow.
Yeah, because it looks like not even a few minutes ago, or Coinbase basically posted the same thing you just said. 1 year ago, the UK announced its ambition to become a leader in the crypto hub, a policy driven from the highest levels of government. Since then, the UK has become one of the fastest growing markets. Europe is winning. Will the US catch up? I think
well, you don't want to get started on Coinbase.
You just answered that question, Venture. What's your thoughts on that, Dad? Is the USA have a plan to come in at the last second and just to get in place, or are we really at risk of really falling behind?
I didn't. My perspective on that, it's a really tricky one because there's so many factors. But my first initial thought is the U.S. is never behind in anything. It's the greatest empire ever in history. So having said that, there's a great movie called Swordfish. When I think of that, it makes me think of the movie. There's a scene in Swordfish where John Travolta's exiting the helicopter, but as he says, you're paying attention to the right hand. You didn't see what the left hand was doing. You saw like the scene where the helicopter blows up and they think he's dead, but on the left hand, he was sneaking out the back and exiting the building. So at the moment that everyone thought he was dead, he was just getting started. That was everyday business for him.
Okay.
There's so many scenes that are going on. Oh man, you guys, you give me like a million things to want to bounce back to. Again, I took a handful of notes. Let's come back to, you know, where you were talking about BRICS, and then you're talking about sanctions. Man, that sparks up so much. What's going on right now is I'm trying to think of how deep I want to get into that one because I want to stay out of trouble. But I think lightly, if we go into it like this way, you have BRICS and sanctions. You know, whenever they mentioned, you know, last year with Russia having sanctions, and the Ripple community got a little upset, and I mean the executives in Ripple got a little upset with me because my first post, I instantly said Ripple could care. I mean, and Russia could care less about the sanctions because they could always use Ripple. They could always use XRP because it's decentralized. And that's whenever Brad Garlinghouse came out and said, you know, he was pretty upset. And he's like, that can never happen because sanctions wouldn't allow it. But my thought was, you know, okay, I get it. I'm going to shut up publicly. I understand what you're saying. I'll be quiet. But if it's decentralized and anyone can use it, then the moment they sanction them from the dollar, then they could go live on XRP. I get it, Brad. You're upset. I shut up. I
Mm-mm.
instantly, I mean, I didn't go public with that one again. But having said that, if you look around the world, the sanctions, let's use an example. Iraq. Go back to the Iraqi dinar. They were sanctioned. The Iraqi dinar was one of the most valuable dollars on the planet Earth. It was number one. It was worth $3.80 or $3.82 to every one USD. They threw sanctions on them, and now it was worth 0.00069 at current rate. But having said that, they sanctioned them because they were working with Iran, and Iran was being bad actors. Having said that, Iraq is trying to clean itself up currently, and Saudi Arabia is actually being their bodyguard, their extra muscle to say, Iran, stay away from them. They're cleaning their act up. Leave them alone so that their value can come back.
You know, one thing about them, the currencies and the weird places they go, there's a lot of big debate about them places. A lot of big. I understand where you're going with this, Dad. I understand completely. I understand that basically, yeah, anybody could, oh man, with the whole Swift thing going live, they try to control the money. They try to control the money and try to control where the money goes. And hey, I'm not here to debate that one. I'm not here to debate that one as far as the. That's just a whole nother topic. I had to switch the subject on that right there. Is as far as the sanctions and all that, because that actually just opens up a whole nother show. And I don't know, basically YouTube has the word algorithm when you start talking like them kind of words and stuff like that. So that's why I always stay away from I don't know what conflict corridors. You could call it
Gotcha.
conflict corridors. I guess that's the best way to say it. That's for sure. So I can't believe I got both of you guys on the show. Venture, talk to us, Venture. Know what's your thoughts on that, Venture?
Well, I
think, because I think
think,
Venture still has something to add on to what Dad was saying.
well, truthfully, I
Always
think
gotta be
there's,
mindful, huh?
I think there's two
What?
RESETs going on. I, I think there's a good one and a bad one. I think the banking cabal that has run things for over 100 years is
Okay.
doing everything they can to, you know, um, to stay in control. And I do think that there is another group that is trying to get that controlling interest out of finances. And I hope that's true. I'd like to think it is. I hope it is. And I think it really, you know, I don't think it's unthinkable to think that Xi and Putin and Trump are actually working together. That we know that, or if you don't, Putin is very anti secret combinations or secret oaths groups. He doesn't go in for that at all. And I'd like to think Trump's is the same way. We know JFK was. He, in his great speech, talked about the secret combinations or the secret oaths that were permeated throughout all of society. And that was 60 years ago. So I don't know, but I'd like to think that ripples. I agree with Dad that the U.S. has always been on the leading edge of everything, and I'd like to think they're just holding it back, and they have legitimate plans and designs. We've talked about this. If you take XRP and their use case for not only cross borders, but one of the things I was excited about when Flare came out with the smart contracts, and Ripple invested in Flare, and their logo is F, and and XRP's logo is X. That's the FX market, and then, Ripple wants to go after all the money. Well, all the money is in derivatives. It's a lot bigger than cross-border payments. But you do the derivatives, you do cross-border payments, and you got XLM and their use cases, and you've got all these different elements that could really make these amazing assets to hold. I'd like to think the U.S. is aware of it, involved in it, and that we're just, we are just watching a movie, but they have to clear the way for it.
Well,
We've
XLM
also
is
said,
live.
huh?
What about the XLM UN deal with the MoneyGram UN XLM? That's flowing.
I'm all about. We've also talked about the theory before. Did Jeb and Ripple, did they really have a fight, or was it just convenient to create two sister companies, one for this use and one for this use, kind of a gold and silver? Not necessarily that they're backed by gold and silver, but you kind of get what a stronger asset and a little lesser asset, but they go after different things. I mean, we know that in the United States, 70% of the whole total GDP comes from small businesses.
Wow.
Every one of those small businesses typically accept credit cards. And so all of these merchant accounts that they pay 3% of their transaction, you go in and you buy, $30 meal, they got to pay $3 to the merchant account because you use your card, where they could pay half a penny, using XRP or XLM in a lot faster speed. So XLM could go after the merchant accounts throughout the world and be a huge asset. So there's so many wonderful things that could happen.
Was the company split to have a brother company and a sister company to do two different things, and there was never really beef between the two?
I think there's some serious merit there. It looks like Dad's chomping at the bit to say something, so go for it. Say it, fella.
I feel this. I've always felt the same way. I always call them the twins. You know what I mean? Mm. And I would even toss in XTC into that one as Infin, because then you have what I call the triple X. You have wholesale market with Ripple XRP. You have the retail market with XLM and Stellar, and you have the trade finance with Zinfin's XTC. In banking, there's 3 tiers. You have wholesale, retail, and trade. So literally the triple X completes the system. And really there's no one else doing what either of them are doing if you understand what they're doing. You know what I mean? And their partners will tell you all day long that they're in different lanes. They're not competitors with each other. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's pretty massive. Honestly, I think it's.
About a month ago, I did some research. I thought it was kind of weird how Ripple stepped down at the same time Stellar stepped in to the MoneyGram relationship. What's the odds of that? I just think Ripple was doing something on a bigger level with the court thing for all, plus the larger banker thing, and they just still needed the same exact protocol to do what they was already doing, which was, whether they call it Stellar or call it Ripple, it's the same protocol. Am I wrong? Right, Venture?
They're almost twins. There might be some small coding tweaks, but they're pretty much the same. But think about it. They have this breakup. In the settlement, Jeb gets a bunch of XRP. Now he can sell it to fund the construction and the building of a new company that is XLM and Stellar, without any, and if you think about it, without any securities offering, selling it, like if he was trying to sell XLM, let's say there was somebody that had a product called, I don't know, Ethereum. Okay. And they were widely out on video saying, hey, we're going to sell you this and we're going to build out and what have you. I mean, they're literally marketing and advertising the sale of their token to build their company. That's a security. But if Jeb sells XRP to build Stellar, but he didn't sell XLM to build Stellar, guess what? It's not a security.
So So why do you think they never went after Jed though? I mean, he was still selling his XRP. Why? Because he was dumping it straight to the institution.
What's
I
your
mean,
question?
I guess basically, you know how they went after Ripple for basically selling unregistered security, but Jed was one of the founders, and he probably, well, I guess I don't think he sold as much as them, but I mean, he had a pretty nice bag from the beginning, or I guess.
Yeah, he had a nice bag. But, you know, he's obviously Ripple is the leader. Whether anybody thinks, everybody likes to point to Bitcoin and what have you, but Bitcoin, there, you know, with all its limitations and the slow speed and it's not so much, you know, the only thing that gives, I think, Bitcoin any value is that it was the first mover, has the brand name recognition, and I get that there's, you know, 21 million, probably closer to 18 million that are actually existing, because I guarantee you there's some computers in landfills that had, you know, 100,000 Bitcoin on it that they threw away because they were worth, you know, 2 cents a piece.
Yeah.
So there's not that much in circulation, or not, at least not the full 21 million. But I still believe that Bitcoin is, hey, look at what we're doing over here. But what's really going on is over here in the hand you can't see. Ripple, to me, is the strongest use case, has the most potential, and had the company. I mean, their staff. We haven't talked about their staff in a long time, but they got some talent in that company. And you know, they have all the professionalism in the world to be whatever the world needs out of a company that could offer them the ODL and the professionalism and the software solution that is RippleNet. They've got it all. So they're the most likely ones to, let's tie these guys up in court for either one or two reasons, either maliciously or deliberately, because the timing, if you think about the way the Fed is running and printing money now, I mean, they are out of freaking control. There was just a guy on 60 Minutes that represented, I don't know which Fed he was from, New York or what have you, but he's literally asked the question, is there any limit to how much you can print? He says, the guy says, no, there is no limit to how much money you can print. So they can just, we are $32 trillion. I remember when people were freaking out when the U.S. debt clock went to 13 trillion. And we're at $32 trillion in debt, and people have no idea how big a trillion is.
I don't think they turn the money printer doesn't turn off, does it? They can't turn it off.
No, they can't turn off the printer. That switch you saw with the on and the on, that was the printer over at the Fed.
Yeah, that was the money.
Okay, the reality of it is they are printing to break the system. They want to break the whole entire financial system. It's happening. The banks around the world are in serious trouble. The Fed wants to raise rates, needs to raise rates to slow down inflation, but at the same time, if they don't, they have boxed themselves in, and it is going to collapse. I'm sure of it. And you know, whether it's a complete and total fresh start, I'm sure it will be. But I think there's a very real possibility that they've already got a plan to use, hopefully, XLM and XRP and XDC for their new system. Okay. Seems like it. I mean, you've got R3, you know, those guys working pretty diligently. Stella's working pretty diligently. Ripple's working pretty diligently to be part of this economy.
What's your thoughts about SEC going after Coinbase now that, and I asked both of you those, and Brian Armstrong says that they had many meetings with SEC and Gary Gensler, and as soon as they walked out the door, matter of fact, they handed him the letter as he's walking out the door. I had the statement pulled up. Basically, they said, hey, we had 30 meetings with you guys, and you said everything was fine. Now we're receiving all these, letters. That's like going right at the company that was supposed to do everything correctly.
Well, I told you earlier that I feel like Brian Armstrong Ripple was kind of thrown over the deck, thrown out, thrown right off the ship, and is out in the water with a life raft, and Armstrong was up on the deck, kind of scoffing at us, And now all of a sudden they threw him over, and he's out floating in the water with us. And now we're buddies and friends. Now he's all about, let's work together. And boy, well, first of all, you're the one that, the minute they sued him, he should have relisted XRP if he really wanted to gain some love and support from the XRP community.
They said they received a SEC-focused letter on their staking. Today, Coinbase received a Wells notice from SEC focused on staking and asset listing. 2 years ago, SEC reviewed our business in detail, approved Coinbase to go public. Our S1 clearly explained our asset listing and process and all our staking. Coinbase runs a rigorous asset process, and still, you guys are coming after us. What's up with that, Dad?
Man, and the SEC, if you go back to SEC, I mean, like the GOP senators are saying, the SEC does regulation through enforcement. That's the most profitable way that they can do it. If they keep it muddy and remove clarity, then they can say, well, you should have known better. We're going to fine you. We're going to penalize you, and you can pay to play. But I want to go back to something, too. I'll connect a few things that you guys mentioned again. I took a handful of notes again. I'll try to stay off the algorithms on this one. I don't think there'll be any concern here. I can see how the last one, could have gotten a little edgy. Really quick, what I would go back to is saying, when Venture mentioned like they're breaking the system on purpose, there's so many sides to that. But if you go back, like them or not, I mean, I stay neutral with politics. You can love somebody or you can hate somebody. You can be right, you left, whatever. But in the middle, that's kind of where the truth lies. So having said that, the whole thing, whenever Trump's last presidency, he was trying to bankrupt the Federal Reserve so they would crash. I would say, they succeeded and it happened. If you go to the U.S. debt clock right now, if you go and check it out, on the bottom, not the very bottom left-hand corner, but near the bottom left-hand corner, it used to say Federal Reserve note, but now it says the U.S. Treasury. Mm-hmm. That's been removed and switched. That was what Trump's goal was. Okay. The Federal Reserve was actually, part of a company that was controlling the money, printing the money, etc. But the U.S. Treasury was actually part of the U.S. government. Okay. So the U.S. Treasury held the finances and the money for the people. So if you take the money from the Federal Reserve and give it back to the Treasury is back there for the people. So I think that's what happened with that. But I think my perspective, going back to really quick with, I know you guys mentioned if they wanted to stick it to them, they could put XRP back on Coinbase. My belief was when the time is ready, everybody would remove XRP because it was never meant for retail. It was never meant for you and me to use. It's meant for the banks and the enterprise to use. So for me, when the time was ready, I've said from day one on my channel, they'll remove it and you and I won't even be able to get it because it's like Swift. Why would you hold Swift when the banks are the only one who's going to use it? You can't use it as a currency, even though it has extreme value. That's kind of what XRP was meant to be, to replace Swift. It wasn't meant for you and me to hold as a currency, yet it's going to move all the money. So the thing of it here, what I find unbelievably bullish about just the past few days, even the last 2, maybe just say 3 days, to me, this says we're ready. It could be as soon as April 1st. And here's why. As you know, and we've shown the video over and over and over again from Navin Gupta, where he goes on stage and he says, once we move past the noise of retail, you and I are retail. If you hold XRP and you're not a corporation, we're retail. So he says, once we move past the noise of you and me, then they're going to get into the enterprise, the institution, the wholesale, and they're going to move towards derivatives. What's been happening right now is a liquidity crisis. What's happening with every single bank you've seen the past week? They're closing down. They're done. The crisis hit them. All right, here's where it's going to get really exciting and real important very quickly. Okay. XRP was meant to save the financial world. It's the liquidity savior, so to speak. It's here to solve all the liquidity crises with a liquidity pool. It can go fast. It can go cheap. It can go efficient. Now, the largest thing that they're meant to do as Ripple is getting to the derivatives. What's the biggest derivatives concern and issue right now in crisis? The Deutsche Bank. The Deutsche Bank, which is in the news yesterday and today for potential collapse, has the largest amount of derivatives on Earth. Yeah, so if you say like instantly overnight, oh no, Deutsche Bank's going to collapse, they have all the derivatives. If XRP wants to move past retail, they did by delisting in the USA. If they want to move into derivatives and instantly move up to 4 or 5 digits overnight, all they have to do right now is Ripple can go and save Deutsche Bank. Boom. Tomorrow, XRP could be 1,000 plus.
If y'all do not know, Digital Asset Daily has a YouTube channel also. They drop a video every day, or I know he drops a video almost every day or every day.
Yeah, every day. Last year, you know, I had some challenges, so we kind of took a little break, but we're back. And the only day we probably miss is Sunday, but we try to make it up with 2 videos on like Monday or Tuesday. So.
Okay, I'm telling you, Dad, you got me fired up. Venture, he pumped me up, Dad. I mean, Dad, Venture, Dad pumped me up.
He does it every time.
He caught me off guard. He went deep with it. He was telling me like the days ODL went live.
I just get mad, so I just want to rant, and you know. But...
That was an amazing show right there. I can't believe the way he tracked it down with the ODL, and he actually tracked it down with the actual dates. And because XRP has been on fire with the well, when I said that Venture, he was like, well,
I said you're using the word fire liberally. Kind of looks.
Yeah, he was ready to see $1 right away. That's for sure. Let me see where we got right here. Yeah, guys, I got link in the description. Digital Asset Daily's YouTube channel. His link. Venture is also on Twitter. Above me, Venture's on Twitter. Dad is on Twitter. Dad does a video daily. And Venture's coming in from the newly built man cave.
Yes, the man cave.
It's looking nice there. Maybe one day we can get like a tour of the man cave.
Yeah, well, I'm in an undisclosed location.
Looks like
I'm in an undisclosed location. Yeah.
Like crypto retirement's been good to you, man cave. Last time I talked to you, you were standing out on like the ranch, and now you're like coming out from the man cave. I bet it looks like the 007. He got like the champagne on the rocks over there. Yeah. I'm just joking.
Well, hey guys, I'm actually got to wrap it up. I've got another meeting I've got to go to.
Thank you so much, Dad, for coming on also. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Oh, glad to do it.
Venture,
it was good to see you, Venture, and it was an honor. Thanks for having me on.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, Venture and Dad. And thank you so much, Bulls family. If you guys can smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. And thank you guys. Have a good night.